Good morning, evening, or afternoon. You're listening to Brownsville Matters, KXIQ 105.1's podcast show where we learn a little about everything from all walks of life on the border by the sea. Our next guest is the head of a local nonprofit that empowers young students to not only advance to their next stage after high school, but also encourages them to give back to their community. Leading Rio Progress, let's welcome our next wonderful guest, Maria Fernanda Martinez. Welcome to Brownsville Matters.
Thank you, Gil. It's fun being here and getting the opportunity to have a conversation.
Yes. Also, just for the record, you have interviewed me on your podcast before. So now the tables have turned and you're on the other end of the table.
They have, but see, I sent you questions that I would ask in advance.
Oh, yes.
I'm just sitting here waiting to see what this is about.
They're questions whose answers you'll be quite familiar.
Okay, I'm excited.
Okay, I like to start things off with a fun curveball question to get the creative juices flowing. Okay, so like I was saying a minute ago, you help high schoolers figure out where they will be going in their college and maybe even their careers eventually. Mm-hmm. When you were their age, what did you want to be when you grow up, and how does that compare to your current line of work?
So I wanted to be Secretary of Education for the world.
Wow.
I was not ambitious at all, clearly. So I, like many of our students, I went through a journey of many different careers that I thought could fit what I wanted. Mm-hmm. And in high school, what I really wanted was, I was angry at the education system and I wanted to fix it. Mm-hmm. But I also wanted to travel. And I was really interested in international relations and politics, and my thought was, if most of the problems that we have, at least in one component or another, require education as part of the solution, even if it's not formal school education, but we need to teach people about like hygiene and sanitation, or we need to teach people about business and economics, right? And so in my head, if I could just fix everything all at once, well, that's way more efficient. So I was convinced I was going to create a position in the UN that was Secretary of Education for the world.
The whole world.
The whole world, all at once.
I love it. Mm-hmm. Okay, let us talk about your origin story. Are you originally from Brownsville?
I am.
Okay, so what was that like? How did you grow up? And where along the way did you realize, oh my gosh, I want to empower young people?
So I grew up here in mostly two places. So we lived in Southmost for a while until I was in first grade, I think we moved, and then spent the rest of my life in front of the flea market, like that little neighborhood. So North Brownsville before it was fully developed.
I see.
So I have stories that I tell sometimes to our students that I used to ride my bike down Alton Glore to go to Gold's Gym. And like, there was no traffic. Mm-mm. We had to worry about absolutely nothing. Just, I would not do that now. Like the way that things are set up, I would 100% not do that. But so I got to see Brownsville really, I feel like, grow into what it is now and what it's still becoming. Mm-hmm. But I was one of these people that was like, I hate it here. I am so tired of being here. And it wasn't for a lot of the reasons that I hear of, we just don't have fun things. Sometimes I scroll down like the Facebook comments when a new restaurant's popping up and the things people are requesting. I'm like, that's not what I wanted. I wanted a Broadway theater, right? Mm-hmm. I wanted to be able to go see shows. I wanted to see museums. Mm-hmm. And our museums, they're lovely, but they're tiny, right? We don't have a Met where you can spend hours getting lost in it. And that's kind of what I was dreaming about when I was here. And I had the opportunity to do a lot of summer programs through a scholarship that I earned that also showed me what I was missing. And I think that was both a good thing, and also in some ways when I would come back, I was itching. I was like, well, now I know what the world out there has, and I want more of it. So I left for the last 2 years of high school. I attended a boarding school, and then I stayed gone for college. And my last year of college, I decided that I wanted to teach, but I wanted to come back and do it in Brownsville, because through my college education, I learned what teachers who are not from a community are not always the best teachers for that community, especially in communities that really have a very nuanced culture and needs. And so I decided I would come back and teach here. I did so. And I think being here as an adult with like a car and the ability to move around and do your own thing really changes your perspective on the place, because if I was bored, I could find the thing that I needed to do, right? And I started to come into my own agency of like, well, if we don't have it, you just got to do it, right? You just got to make it happen. I went to like UTRGV, the performances that they put on, which are beautiful. And I was like, wait, I didn't know that this was here when I was growing up. And so that kind of filled some of that void that I guess I felt growing up. And the mentoring young students was because I had a lot of opportunities growing up that relied on mentorship and relied on people just telling me the things I needed to do and know. And I wanted to give that back.
Yes. I feel like that's such a strong part of your personality, adding value to the community. And yes, like we do have many wonderful museums, nonprofits, culturally enriching groups, like the BHA, the Camille Playhouse, the Brownsville Society of the Performing Arts, which is where we are right now. Even though we would like to have many more resources at our disposal, so that all the 200,000 people in our city can fully enjoy and cherish what we all have to offer, I feel like we are very resourceful with what we do have right now.
Correct.
Like all of those. But I don't know, maybe someday we'll get grants funding at all the museums, the Playhouse. Apparently there are plans for this particular radio station to go even further.
That's exciting.
Yes.
Okay.
But time will tell. Okay, now let us talk about your time as a high schooler, college. It was far away, wasn't it?
Yes. So I was in high school in Los Fresnos for a couple of years. But like I said, I had the opportunity to do a couple of summer programs, one of which was in Exeter, New Hampshire.
There we go.
And I fell in love with Phillips Exeter Academy. It's a private boarding school in New England. It looks like a mini college. My favorite thing to tell people about it is they have a whale skeleton in the science building that's hanging from like the ceiling. And it was a beach whale that students cleaned up along with their teacher, like students from the school, and then strung it up to display. And so they got this full experience. And I remember just staring at it like, we don't have a science building back home, right? We have a science hall, maybe, but the amount of resources that were available and the things that people could do. So I went to Exeter, New Hampshire for the last 2 years of high school. I graduated from Phillips Exeter Academy. And then I went to New York City for college. So I was at Columbia because Exeter is tiny. It's a tiny town built pretty much around the school. And then coming from here, I was like, I think I need to try a big city. Like, I think I need to just go extreme opposite end and see what I like.
Is that the town that Dan Brown is from? The author?
It's the school that he graduated from. He's an alum.
I see. Gotcha.
Yeah, the Da Vinci Code.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, we have a few notable alumni. There was actually this thing in our, I guess, curriculum that's embedded into it was assembly. And so we would have to go twice a week to this big assembly hall and listen to speakers. And oftentimes it was alumni. So we never got to listen to Dan Brown, but there were rumors constantly that he was next and he was the one that was coming. But no, we got to hear from some pretty cool people. So I'm not mad that we didn't get Dan Brown.
You wanted to get hints for the treasure hiding somewhere.
Correct. Like, what's next?
So then after high school, you went where?
I went to New York. So I went to Columbia. I was actually deciding between being in DC and New York because, again, I wanted to be Secretary of Education
of the world.
for the world.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, DC has politics. It's, the center of a lot of legislation, and I could start small by starting with the U.S.
Start small. But New York City, however, is the headquarters of the United Nations.
And so that was my whole logic when I was applying to college was Boston, New York, and DC.
Okay.
Because that's where I need to be for international relations, right? In my head, I don't know that that's still true of Boston, but at the time it was. And so it came down to New York or DC, and I ended up picking Columbia because my option in DC was Georgetown. And I learned, and I don't know that a lot of people know this, they have a free speech square.
Oh.
And that's because they are still under the Vatican, right? So there are some things that you're not allowed to, like, I guess Vatican trumps free speech.
Okay.
In whatever order they have.
Okay.
So there were some conversations that were limited to this. The way that they got around like the free speech requirement is by having this like courtyard where certain student groups could put their information and share their ideas.
Oh my gosh.
And some might call me a very like leftist radical human. And so I think the idea of a free speech square was just a little much for me, where I was like, that feels too small. So I ended up opting for New York instead because it just felt a little bit more my energy.
Yeah. Well, you could also argue from a traditional American kind of conservative standpoint. Well, free speech is one of the bedrocks of our country.
On both ends of the spectrum.
Everyone should be upset.
And I think, they probably framed it a little bit differently during the tours because I remember this was coming from like a classmate who was already there and giving me the lowdown. But it, and it makes sense. It's things that the Catholic Church doesn't necessarily stand for. And so they were kind of like, you can exist here
in this little square.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Okay. Now where, between, your time in New York and your return to Brownsville, or maybe after your return to Brownsville, did you start cooking up the idea of Rio Progress?
Rio Progress has been many iterations, I think. So really, when I was 16 and I moved to Exeter, was my first realization that things were unfair. That I had to take flights. I had to go halfway across the country. I had to be far away from my family to get the level of education that I was seeking. I experienced growth like never before. My writing was a mess. And I got good grades in Los Fresnos. I was a great student. And I got there and I was below average. And I had to fight really, really hard to get to average. And I think I graduated like slightly above average, but definitely not near the top. But it was a huge growth process. And I would talk to my classmates about even their experiences at their previous schools before attending boarding school. And that was still very different. The things they had access to, the professors that they had, the teachers that they had. So that was when it first, I think, started, where I was like, well, this is unfair and something has to change, hence wanting to fix the education system. While in college, I took a class called Equity in Higher Education that was led by my favorite professor of all time, who was also he worked in admissions for a really long time for Columbia. And then he went on to be a professor. He's now dean of students because of the way that universities work and rotating positions. But that class was basically like, this is how college admissions works. And very plain, very, very matter of fact. I remember he showed us a graph that was like, this is how high you need to be academically if you're poor. Based on like it was literally a line graph, right? And it's like, basically, if you're rich, you can get away with less like academically. And if you're poor, you have to be up here. And it's pretty linear, right? And this was coming from data that they had for years and years of being in admissions. This was also looking at things like legacy and athletes and all sorts of other factors. And basically, I looked at that and I was like, well, I'm on that side of the graph, right? Where I had to work really, really hard to get into these places. And I was lucky, right? I had so much luck on my side. This is kind of backtracking in the question a little bit, but I don't think stories really are linear. So
No.
when I was in 7th grade, I got a letter that was like, hey, apply to this scholarship. It's the Jack Kent Cooke Young Scholars Program. And I got lucky that I opened it and didn't just throw it away thinking it was spam. And then I was like, let me take this to my counselor and see what she thinks about it. Because I feel like at that time we were getting so many like, apply to this scholarship, and they were fake. Like they were just like those scam things.
Right.
And she's like, well, they have a website, so they're legit, because, you know, we grew up in the time when having a website meant you were legit.
Right.
And I applied, and she helped me through the entire like handwritten application process, and I got it. And I think that spurred a lot of the opportunities that I had. But I often think if I had just tossed away that mail, or if I hadn't taken the time to do it, or if my counselor hadn't known about it or hadn't helped me look it up, like there were many points where luck factored in, right? Where I just got lucky to have the right people in my corner. So when I came back, I had all this knowledge of the inequities in the system. And it wasn't just like a feeling anymore like I had in high school. It was like legit. I have data for this now, and I understand how it works. And I remember my first group of students were so disillusioned. I had juniors in high school, and one of the things they said is like, well, everyone always leaves. Like all these teachers that care always leave. So you're just going to be like them. I was like, okay. They didn't want to try. I remember I had one kid who was brilliant. He was like, well, I'm just dumb. I was like, no, you're lazy, but that's a different story. And he kicked it into gear, right? And I noticed all these things, and I was like, they need more. And the school system is unfortunately not designed to help you do more as an educator. You have already so much on your plate that I just couldn't do everything that I felt like the students needed to really get out of that funk and into the next step. And so that all led to then I was part of another nonprofit, STARS, and we had some students there who were working on science fair projects and doing, you know, fun engineering, nerdy things. And then they needed help applying to college. And Phil, having known me, you know, throughout all this discovery process of education and how much I wanted to change things, like, you should start this. Like, go ahead, pushing me off the edge. I was like, I don't know that I can do this. Like, people pay really big money for this in other places. Like, this is a professional thing to help students go through college applications and all that. And I just didn't feel qualified. But what I have figured out since is that those other people are also learning as they go. And the qualification is, do you care enough? And if you care enough, you can help.
Wow. Also, for context to our listeners, Phil, who was actually our previous guest from last week, is married to Maria Fernanda.
Yeah, this is also something that might shock our students. We actually keep a tally on our office because our students, we've realized, don't understand that we're married until like a year in.
What?
So hi, RP students. Yes, Phil and I are married. For those of you that's news too.
Yeah. No, I feel like y'all balance each other out beautifully.
We think so too, but I think our students are just not observant in the ways that like it requires to notice that.
Yeah, and even that, I don't think it's time for them to concern themselves. No. They should worry on studies a little more.
Correct. I'm like, that's fine. We just keep a tally now because we find it funny.
Okay, so let's pretend I'm half my age and I am interested in the program. Is there an application process? And if accepted, what would that look like for me?
Okay, so that means you're like a freshman in high school?
Yes.
Okay, so we mostly start working with sophomores and juniors in high school.
Let's pretend I'm a sophomore or junior in high school.
And there is an application process. We are iterating on it because our first year we just had like 6 students and it was basically word of mouth. Our second year similarly. And this year we ended up with 30 students and more that had applied that we just don't have the capacity for. So I think this will be the last year that we do this rolling admissions process where students apply at any point sophomore, junior year. They become a part of our program, and we start working with them as soon as they want. Some of them are applying to summer programs. Some of them are applying to scholarships. But really the work begins like junior spring, right? That's when we're really making sure we're doing test prep, making sure we're figuring out your college list so that if you wait until senior fall, you also then have to contend with, well, I'm in cheerleading or I'm in football and I have all these other constraints on my time. So we do that. In the future, I think we are going to implement a more systematic application system where there's a deadline and, we select based off of our metrics that we use, just because there's two of us doing this work and we really want to maintain quality. So unless we get some real big funding, which organizations that have funding, this is your hint, we'll have to keep it limited to about 30 students. But yeah, there's an application process. Students, after they apply, they basically get an email that's like, hey, come talk to me. And then, I give them a plan of what's next and what we're doing. And we have weekly meetings with our students on Sundays. And then we also offer things like study hall, where they can just come in during the week. Basically, while we're working, they're there kind of co-working with us to work on their homework or their assignments.
Wow. Okay. Now, for your first, would you call it a cohort?
Yes.
Of 6 students. What was life for them after high school? Did you keep tabs on them?
Yeah, so we follow our students. So the other thing to know about the way RP runs is that I am a big nerd. And because I'm at the head of it, we never stop looking at data and we never stop looking at the research that's coming out. And so one of the things that I modeled a lot of our work after is Posse. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're an organization that basically figured out for Black and Latinx students going to college, one of the hardest parts of it is that they are going alone.
Okay.
And if we come from a big family culture, it's really, really hard to stay over there. So they developed a system called Posse where they send students out to colleges together in groups.
Oh, from the same community?
From the same community.
Oh, okay.
So we didn't get to do that exactly because we had such few students, right? And we really were just like, go where there's money. But we treat our cohort kind of like that Posse model where we try to get them to befriend each other and make sure that they are also keeping tabs on each other as part of this process. But the other thing that Posse does is they follow through, right? And a lot of scholarships do this. Gates, Jack and Cook,
yes.
They don't leave you alone. Every year you're like, hey, how are you doing? How are your grades? What do you need? And so we do that probably on a semester model more than a yearly model, just because I get worried if I start to not hear from them. Like, are you alive? Did you? So that original cohort, we actually have what I call our cohort beta, which is one student. And he's graduating this year from Princeton. We're really, really excited for that.
Wow.
But that official first cohort, they're juniors. And so we have had a few of them come back, tell us what they're working on. Lots of changes of majors, lots of realizations. But it's very exciting because they're all on track to graduate next year. And some of them are already thinking about graduate programs. Some of them are thinking about what their next career move is going to be. And they're all so much more like self-assured and confident. You know, the growth that happens during college, we get to see that really firsthand. And not just with them, right, but with all of our subsequent cohorts. But yeah, they're juniors. Most of them were in the Northeast. We have one out in California, and we get to hopefully get to their graduations next year.
Oh, that would be lovely.
I'm going to try really hard. It's hard because we also have our 30 high schoolers with their own graduations. So we're going to see how we can figure out this schedule. I might have to figure out time travel for this at this point.
Or you two may have to split
up. I feel like even then, this year we're going to the Princeton graduation, right? Because I'm really excited for it. And we're going there, and then we're coming back doing a week of graduations, and then going to another one and coming back and doing another week of graduation. So I think May is just going to end up getting taken over by graduations.
Oh my gosh.
Which I think I'm okay with.
Is there, Is there something that you know now that you wish you could have told yourself when you were in high school or during your time in New York?
Oh, yes. I mean, yes, there's a lot of things. The question is like which one stands out.
Right.
I think the thing I've gotten the best at in terms of my approach to the world, right? And my approach to things is learning what's in my control and what's not.
Ooh.
Because clearly I thought I had a lot of control based on what I wanted to do with my career and all these things. And I think one of the big disillusion moments during college was that there were a lot of things I wanted to fix, a lot of things I wanted to change, and realizing just how little control I had over them. And it made me get to a point, even when I was an adult in teaching in classrooms, where I was like, okay, this now I have control over, and I still didn't. And I think that can get you down, and it got me down, right? It got me to the point where I was like, well, I can't change anything because I can't change everything. And that's not the right mindset, I think. So something that's really helped, and I credit the Lazy Genius podcast with this, but it's basically like you start small and you do what you can, and eventually that might snowball, but it also might not. And it's okay because you're still doing what you can, even if you can't do everything. So I think definitely the like, notice the things that are actually in your control and you can do something about, and put your energy there instead of putting so much of your energy into the things that really are fully out of your control.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of harkens back to like the ancient Greek philosophers.
Yeah, no, this is not a new philosophy.
No. But I'm glad that you are not only taking into account, but also applying it to your line of work, so that you could also tell your students about it, and for them to apply it in high school and college.
Yeah, and they are not going to listen the first time we tell them. One of the other philosophies I adhere to is they're gonna have to hear it 99 times before it clicks. Yeah, and I might be 1 through 98, and that's fine, right? They're not, because I think sometimes I talk to parents that are like, I tell them all the time and they don't listen, and I'm like, you're not the 99th time. Like, it just sorry. And so I hope that basically I tell them enough this, and then maybe it'll finally click in college, or a little bit past. But we do try to communicate it. I just don't know that it's gonna click right away for them.
Yeah, or there could also be the situation where they make a terrible mistake, and I go, oh, that's right, Maria Fernanda said this.
Well, I hope it's not a terrible mistake, but
I've learned from the error of my ways.
I do hope that there is a moment where they're like, oh, yes, like, that makes sense.
I should have listened.
No, I always hope they listen first rather than have to experience the mistakes, but I also know we can't stop them from making the mistakes. So we just have to give them enough words in their head that eventually, like, when they're in that situation, they have something to, like, their little Rolodex to listen to.
Right. Wonderful. Could you also talk a little bit about the core aspect of Rio Progress, where you encourage the students to eventually give back to the community?
Yeah. So I became really obsessed with learning about brain drain because when I came back, one of the questions my students would ask is, why are you here? Oh. And they didn't mean it in a like, go away. Right. But I think it was you went to a great school, you have this fancy degree, you could be doing anything. Why are you here? Right. And my thought is, you deserve good teachers. And I deserved good teachers when I was their age. And not to say that you have to have a fancy school degree to be a good teacher, but I think you deserve people who learned a lot and have seen things.
Who care.
And who care and are willing to come back. And so through them, and I got to teach them for 2 years because I basically followed them into senior year. But I learned that a lot of what was missing in our students was this lens to see Brownsville as something with potential. Because they had just seen it the same way their whole lives, and oftentimes because their parents had seen it that way their whole lives. And they didn't know the good that was here. They didn't know the good that could be here.
Mm-hmm.
So part of what we do with our students is, and it's not a requirement, it's not something that's forced, but I try to give them the lens that Brownsville is a place where good can happen.
Yes.
And through that, help them see how they can be part of that good. So we've had students that are like, I want to get far away. I'm like, great, go. Because I think those experiences do help you see what's possible and they help you learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I have so much of what I learned during my time in Exeter and in New York that I use on the daily here, right? But part of that, the conversations we have with them are, you know, you could do that here, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is how you could do it. This is how you could make it happen. Some of them already have it innately, right? They already know what they want to do and how they want to give back. But I also find that we have students who are like, well, I could never make money doing that here. And I'm like, well, it depends. First of all, we're living in an increasingly like digital world, right? So you could do remote work. You could do many other things and still live here and be part of your community.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think students have a very skewed idea of money. And I think our community in general, like, what's good money? What do you need in order to actually like have a decent life here? Because they're hearing on TikTok and on social media, like, you need to make 6 figures or else you're not going to be able to have a good life. And I'm like, the median income in Brownsville is $44,000, right? That's not necessarily true here. It depends on a lot of other factors. So we just give them all the information. And I try to, I'm the person that's like, okay, you're going to talk smack, but then you got to tell me what you're going to do about it. Okay, you don't think we have enough fun things to do here? What do you want? We actually had a conversation with some of our students and they all fell silent. And I was like, you can't be complaining that we don't have anything fun to do and then not even give me ideas. What if an investor came in here and was like, hey, what do you want?
Right.
What are you going to answer? You need to have an answer ready. So that's also, it's from the School of Freedom Dreaming that a lot of Black scholars adhere to of, it's not enough to complain. You also have to have a vision for what you want. And that's what we try to instill in them. It's like, what's the vision here? Like, what do you want? What would make it better?
Right. Freedom dreaming. Wow. This is the first time I hear about this. Can you expand on that a little bit, please?
So a lot of Black scholarship talks about how for so long Black people were in survival mode in the United States, where it was just, we just have to get rights. We just have to get freedom. We just have to get the next thing in order to be okay, right? Not to thrive, but just to be okay.
Okay.
That at some point we forgot to freedom dream.
Oh.
And the idea is like we forgot to dream about what we would want in an ideal world where we're not struggling. And so this line of scholarship of freedom dreaming came from the scholar I've read most on is Dr. Bettina Love. But basically this idea of like, okay, in the places where we've already gotten our rights, right, where we're already here, and then people are lost and they don't know what to do because all they've known is the struggle. And then they get to a place where they're okay. And then they just kind of stay there, right? And there's no growth and there's no expansion. And so the idea is you have to dream about what you're going to happen when you're free, what you're going to do when you're free, so that you have that ready to go, so that when you get your freedom, you know what you're working towards next. You have those dreams. And I think a lot of that applies to Brownsville as well, where for so long it's just been like, okay, I just need to make it out. I just need to get my degree. I just need to get the community to a place where we have better education, or we don't have as much poverty, or all of these things. But people aren't dreaming about what happens next. And I think we saw that shift in 2015 when a lot of money came into the city. And people didn't have their ideas ready to go. Right? And so what happens is people are going to come from the outside with ideas.
Right.
And they're going to use that money to implement them. And I'd rather that be our students. I'd rather that be our community that's ready to go. So my challenge to them is like, figure out what you would want. If someone came in and gave you money, right? What is the thing you're going to build?
You know, I didn't really think about it that way because if you look historically, you're talking about how Black Americans were experimenting with like where they had most freedom, and in terms of organizations, it was churches and fraternal halls. And you'll realize historically, some of the great people in Black American history were connected in some way, shape, or form to the church or to one of these fraternities.
Yeah. And it's because those are the spaces where they're also encouraged to think of like, you know, all the possibilities and what could happen and what could we do. And I think that's where a lot of the great art came from. And a lot of the spaces, like a lot of the educators I've learned from of some of the most beautiful schools that have been set up came from that space of like, now that we're free, this is what we want for our kids. This is what we want for our community. And I don't think we have gotten past that point of survival as a community in Brownsville, even though we haven't really been in it for a few years now, right? We've had a lot more resources. We've had a lot more investment, but I don't think that has clicked for us.
Oh, but still, what you're doing is to create this space that encourages people to really add value to Brownsville from people from Brownsville. That's what we really need.
No, I agree. So the selfish reason I do this work, right? Because I think all selfless work has also fundamentally something that you want, is I don't want to be the only one doing these things anymore.
No.
Right? I cannot wait. Sometimes I joke that this is like my little MLM.
Multi-level marketing scheme.
I'm like, this is my Mary Kay. This is my Tupperware. Yeah. My goal is that eventually the market's saturated and we don't need this anymore. I don't need to do this work anymore because everyone knows about education. Everyone knows what they deserve and everyone knows what they're going to do with their energies. And it's for the good of our community. But that I know that takes work, right? I know that that's not going to happen from one night to the other. And so the idea is like, okay, how can I multiply this? And so we started with 6 students and we grow. And my hope is that those, you know, we are now at, I think, 80 students total served across the years. And so I'm hoping that if those 80 influence another one and another one and another one, that this will eventually have a multiplier effect where in 10, 15 years, we get a group of, 100 people doing what we're doing in Brownsville, right? Where they're investing and they're building and they're creating for our community. And then those 100 people turn into 1,000. Maybe we get, all 200,000 of us working in this direction.
Yes.
And that would be the dream.
Oh, I feel like this is a very... I'd love to hear your answer to this question because you teach your students a lot, but what have they taught you?
Oh, I mean, patience is the cop-out answer. But no, I learned so much from them. So I've learned how to understand truly different perspectives. I think a lot of colleges claim that they teach you this, right? How to interact with people who are different than you. And you do, but you can also avoid them very easily. If you don't like someone, you just leave, right? And you just move to a different space, different org. And so with my students, it's the first time that I'm really feeling like I can't leave. Like I made a commitment to serve you and I made a commitment to help you. And so even when you have a different perspective than me, or even when you're not quite listening to the things that I'm explaining to you about something, I have to see it through. I have to stick it out. And not in a way where it's like, oh, I think, like it's not even political. It's not all these like big ideas. It's things like Brownsville's terrible. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I'm going to help you get to college anyway. And hopefully by the end of this journey, you'll either have come to my side or we can find some neutral ground. We don't really have students like that because our students apply usually for the reasons that they want to be a part of something better. But I think really you can't run away when you disagree. We had a case this year, a student, for example, went against our advice and applied early decision to things. And we usually advise against it because it's a financially unsafe choice. Because you don't know how much money they're going to give you and you're already committing to a school. Now, in this case, it was pretty financially safe. We knew based on income and based on certain things that it would work out. But I really wanted them to try their hand at some of the more challenging schools because I thought that they could get it. And I was, I think that there are some opportunities that could have come from that. But ultimately it was their decision, right? And I had to respect it, and I had to just sit back and say, okay, this is what you're doing. And they got in, and I'm really happy for them. I'm very excited. But it is definitely one of those moments where you just have to sit with it and be like, okay, I am watching you make a decision that I don't think is the decision I would make for me. It's not the decision I would recommend to our students. And I just have to accept that it's not me, and it's their life, and they have to, it makes you respect autonomy a lot.
Yes.
Like, I can't force them to do anything.
No. Yeah, no, we were talking about that in your studio, how college forces you to do group projects with people that, what do we say, that people that think differently than you, vote differently than you do, worship differently than you do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But ni modo, you all have to work together to try to get that A.
And I think, I had a little bit of that experience in college, but I could detach myself because I didn't care about them nearly as much as I care about my students, right? And I didn't care about my grade nearly as much as I care about my students. And so because I care about them, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna have to let you do this thing, and I'm gonna have to be here and watch how it goes and cheer you on regardless, in a way that is a little more than it was for me, at least in college.
So you, just like our previous guest, Phil, is a veteran of Chautauqua on the Rio.
Yes.
When you gave a presentation at the bookstore in downtown Brownsville. You also included a little workshop activity of sorts where we role played as college admissions officers, essentially. Could you describe what that exercise was like and what it intended to teach?
Yeah, so I did this exercise when I was in high school through my scholarship program. Wow. We were the admissions officers, and it was meant to give us perspective on what the process is like, because this feels like such a mystic thing of it's the Wizard of Oz. It's behind a curtain. You don't know what it's like. And there's, to some extent, things you can learn about it. And so the design of the workshop is I give you 3 student profiles, complete applications. So they have their resume, their transcripts, their essays, and their letters of recommendation. That's a complete application. And your tasks as admissions officers were to determine which student you were letting in, because this school had a 33% acceptance rate, which meant only one could get in.
No.
And there is no rubric, right? So something that our parents, our students' parents, often ask for is, where's my checklist? What do I need? What's the rubric?
Yes.
And this exercise is meant to show you there is no rubric, and everyone cares about different things. Right. So we actually conducted that with our students this year before I did it with Chautauqua. And half of them accepted one student and half of them the other. And it was purely based on who they could relate to. Right? And I saw similar patterns at the bookstore at Boole when we did it, where, someone was like, well, it's really hard to do that class. But they knew because they had taken it themselves, right? Or the older brothers related to the older brother in the story and how. And so the idea here is that admissions in the United States is not about numbers and metrics, and it's not really quantifiable. They do a holistic review, and people don't understand what holistic review means. And so this activity is meant to showcase that. We're trying to, we're going to look at your scores. We're going to look at your activities. There is a minimum, for example, that you have to meet. But after that, it's about what you showcase in your essays, what your teachers say about you in your letters, and how the admissions reader connects to that.
Right.
And that's the variable you cannot control. And so that's where what we call luck, but really it's like an uncontrollable variable. And it's meant to kind of give some insight into what that process is like and what students are going through.
I remember someone else was working that day, so I was able to participate. Yes, even though we had the students' curriculums right in front of us, and even though we knew what this fictitious school, what their values were and what they were known for, you could hear the conversation in all the different tables. Yeah, but she's really cool. No, but he's really cool. No, but they're really cool.
There's disagreement, and that reflects what a real admissions room looks like too.
Yes.
Because those decisions are also not made by one person.
Yes.
They're made in a committee.
Right.
This is admissions by committee.
Right.
And also admissions officers have to fight for you if they really want you. And I think that was also part of it. And then the other component of it is I gave you all 10 minutes per application to read them, because that's how much time admissions officers really have to sit with your material before they have to go into their committee and defend you. And so knowing like I have to really convey who I am and be compelling enough in the 10 minutes that this person gets to read my application for me to be able to get admissions. Like, I think that's a really good reality perspective check.
Yeah, no, and it goes to, like, everyone, one person valued the student's family life, one valued their academics, one valued what the college stood. So there was different voices from different corners just trying to vouch for their favorite students.
And I know at the end I had some people that were like, I can't decide, so I'm just going to randomly pick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that might happen sometimes.
Wow.
Right? And you just don't know. So it's also meant to help people feel a little bit less bad when they get rejected, because look at how hard it is to make these choices, right? And they are also just humans, right? At the end of the day.
Wow.
It is quite an exercise, though. It's very chaotic.
What would you say was one of the best stories, a go-to fun or interesting story about your particular line of work?
Oh, I don't know that I have a singular story. Honestly, all the moments with our students kind of blur together at the end of the year. I do think our first cohort, what I remember distinctly is they came up to me the day before a deadline for Questbridge.
Yes.
Hey, should we apply to this thing? I was like, yes, absolutely, you should apply to this thing. Okay, well, we have TSA competition tomorrow, so I guess we have to get it done right now. And so we were up with them. I think it was definitely in the evening at this point, and just filling out their application and making sure that everything got submitted. But it's like a lot of that chaotic energy, right? We get a lot of these stories of, well, it's the night before the deadline, or it's the day of, or I have to do that. But I don't think we get a lot of the funny in our line of work, or a lot of the fun in our line of work, because so much of it is so like hard for students and they're in the thick of it. I'm excited for when students graduate college and are kind of through the hard part, or not even graduate college, but I think they come back first and second year of college, and we invite them for like our holiday party and things like that. I like the haircuts that they come back with. Oh, I like the piercings that they come back with, and some of the horror stories that they come back with of like, I crashed this like robotic car that we're building into X, Y, and Z. I'm like, okay, like that's where the fun happens. But I think while we're working with them, a lot of it feels really serious, right? And a lot of it, I think aside from the memes are good. They found, recently Phil has a very vast digital footprint, and they found some of his old improv videos and have turned them into stickers in the WhatsApp chat. And they make my day every time. So I think those are definitely it, right? Like they're just very creative and resourceful.
Wow.
Yeah, there's some good ones. There's one where Phil's going, sorry for those listeners. It was a shock and awe face.
Yeah, exactly right. I was about to say that, but you beat me to it. Maria Fernanda, what would you say is the best tidbit of advice that you've learned so far that you'd like to impart on us today?
It's rarely about you. Oftentimes we take rejection very personally. I know this is part of like the 4 agreements, right?
That's right, yeah.
But it's rarely about you, whether it's rejection, whether it's an acceptance, whether it's whatever it might be. We were actually just talking to our students about this yesterday. If I look at it from the perspective of like college admissions, they're actually not even looking at individuals. They're looking at creating a class of students.
Right.
and what their school needs in that moment. And so even if they accept you, it's not about you. It's about what they needed. It's about what you fit. It's about how you interacted with things. And I think that helps in both lanes because it makes you not get a big head, but also not feel like you aren't worth it, right? Or you lack worth. And so in general, I think this can apply to a lot of areas, but especially when you're looking at things like acceptances and rejections, and I'm applying to jobs, or, you know, I'm out on the dating scene, or I went out for a business proposal and they said no. It's rarely about you.
It's rarely about you. And
the times when it is about you, they're the bad person because it shouldn't be about that.
Yeah. It's rarely about you. Huh.
It requires a lot of detachment from our like typical ego, like centered selves of like, well, what could I have done? Or they didn't like me and that's why they didn't give it to me. And it's like, no, it might be about your idea. It might be about what they needed in that moment. It might be about whether or not they were having a good day.
Yeah.
And you, again, going back to, you can't control that.
Right.
So.
Or it could be they just needed one student. There were 3 options and they randomly picked one.
Because they couldn't decide. And it was not about you.
It was about probability.
Yeah. But I think it prevents people from getting stuck in the, what could I have done differently? What could I have changed? Because sometimes the answers just stay the course. Right. And eventually the right people will find you, or the right opportunity will find you. And I feel like so many people give up too soon on their things because they got a rejection and they assume they have to change. And in reality, maybe if they gave you that feedback, if they told you, hey, this is actually what we're looking for, what we need, sure, adjust. But if you're just guessing, you're going to guess wrong.
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah, sometimes staying the course is one of the most difficult things to do, but it can be the right thing to do. On your show, you asked me what I would tell myself, what my adult version would tell my teenage version.
Yes.
And I thought about it. I said, well, if I would say any words of encouragement, any sort of monumental change, I don't think I'd be who I am right now. I'd probably be some engineer in New England after college, and the first bookstore in Brownsville would be the Barnes & Noble.
And we are all better for the fact that you stayed the course.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And that it wasn't about you. It's not about you if you're not a good engineer. It's not about you if you're not like the superstar consulting person, right? It's just that this is not the thing for you, and you need to find the thing that is.
Right. So now I'm happy to have stayed the course, and
we are happy you did.
Yes, and I'm happy to offer the city an independent bookstore option alongside the Barnes & Noble option.
So diplomatic.
Maria Fernanda, who do you give the most credit to make you the woman you are today?
See, I have the benefit that I got to hear you ask this to someone else. So I like briefly thought about it, but it's still a hard question.
Yes.
When I graduated college, my little like caption thing was that I am community made. And I think that's still true. Not to discount, you know, my parents and all the lessons that they taught me, but I think a lot of what I learned on YouTube comment sections. I learned in college with my friends. I learned from a lot of mentors that have taken me in over the years and taught me about my specific career, my profession, how to conduct myself, how to engage with others. And I read a lot. So I think like the community of books is also part of what made me who I am today. And I think all of that, like I can't give credit to one specific thing because it all kind of interacted together. Because I really was the kind of person I was like, I like this, I like this, I like this. And I like would pick certain ideas or thoughts or like morals, beliefs from different sources and put them all together. And I'm like, okay, this is who I am. I like this. And I'm still doing that today.
Wonderful. Final question. And you also had, like you said, you had the advantage of hearing it. It's the same.
I don't
final
remember
question.
this one.
Oh, actually, before I ask the final question, I'm going to ask the final question you asked me because I want to hear it from you.
Okay.
Okay. So in your show, also linked to Rio Progress, or actually before I ask the question, what is your show like?
So we do a video podcast,
Yes.
produced through Studio X. They're our partners in this work, and I bring in guests to talk about their experiences in education, their experiences navigating, whether it was high school, college, if they decided not to go to college, why, to offer perspectives for our community about what education can look like. Because I think so often we get stuck in, you either go to college or you don't, and college looks one way, and that's it. In your episode, for example, one of the things I really wanted to talk about with you was how your major doesn't define you, because so many of our parents freak out every time their kid's like, I want to change my major, or I don't know what I want to do. And I'm like, that's fine. And they don't believe me. So I'm trying to give them more of the stories of people that studied one thing and are doing another, or didn't know what they wanted to study and found their path, or didn't know if they even wanted to go to college, right? And how they can still succeed and they can still thrive. It's more about finding your path than following a prescription. So that's a little bit about our show.
Yes, I remember of all the interviews that I've had with people that do podcasts, I felt that yours was among the most fascinating because you specifically came from this lens.
Yeah.
And how I had to view my professional life through the lens of education, namely the question was, do entrepreneurs need college?
Yeah.
And the spark notes to the spark notes was no asterisk. The asterisk being,
and then you look at the footnotes.
No asterisk, but it sure as heck helps.
Yes. And and that's true for a lot of the people we've gotten to interview some really fun people. There's season 2 is going to have some more entrepreneurs in
Wonderful.
it. And I think the sentiment is shared, right? Of like, is this necessary? No, but do the skills I've learned through it help me? Yes,
absolutely. So now I have to ask you the final question you ask everyone. What does progress look like for you?
I think one of the things I've learned through listening to everyone's answers is we all have a through line of its forward movement in a direction, and it is not defined by magnitude, but just no matter how small, if you're moving forward. If I were to be more specific in what progress looks like for me with our org or with Brownsville, it is that students understand their options, that they know what they can do, and that they're making informed decisions. And I think as long as we're moving towards that direction where students are making decisions fully with all of the information that they have, with not out of fear, which is where I think a lot of our community operates from, then we're making progress if we're getting to that point.
Wonderful. Okay, I understand you have an appointment at 11.
No, you're good.
So there's only one final question.
Okay.
We'll call it the stage is yours.
Okay.
So imagine a giant
I remember
stadium.
now.
Yes.
Because I didn't have an answer.
So for context, again, to our listeners, Maria Fernanda is married to our previous guest, Phil. Even though the episodes are released a week apart, she was actually present during his final portion of his recording. So
Okay.
she was able to hear this particular question. The question is, again, to those who are listening for the first time, Maria Fernanda, if you can imagine a giant stadium with 200,000 seats, which conveniently is the population of Brownsville. Each one of those seats is filled with all the residents of our city. You march down the middle, down the 50-yard line, with a microphone in hand.
Yeah, because I'm small.
With the opportunity to say something.
Okay.
In 1 or 2 minutes, what would that message be to the people of Brownsville, Texas?
Most of you don't have to pay for college.
Ooh.
Brownsville has the advantage of having UTRGV right here, along with a lot of other great local schools. But UTRGV specifically has a tuition advantage program where if you make under $125,000 a year as a family, you do not have to pay for school. And I just feel like not enough people know this because like 75% of our community falls below that threshold. And 75% of our community is not going to college for free. So college can be free. You just have to apply on time. And what that means is not the UTRGV deadline of June, but the tuition advantage deadline of April. So apply to UTRGV and FAFSA by April. That's my... College can be affordable. College, all the horror stories you hear about it are not here. And so I want people to know that if they want it, there is a choice, and money should not be the barrier for it.
I'm imagining all the parents in the crowd looking at their children going, Mira, escúchame. Take notes.
I hope so, because it makes no sense to me. This has been my little mini Roman Empire for the past 2 years, where when I looked at the data and it was like 30% of students go to college in Brownsville or in the RGV. Why? When it's free? And the amount of people I meet that are like, oh, I didn't go because it costs too much money. I'm like, it doesn't make sense. You could have gone for free if you just submitted on time. If you just applied on time. So there is an option if you want it. It's there, and it's accessible in terms of finances.
Wow. Fernanda, I will repeat the sentiment I had with Phil. Whenever we cross paths, it's always a lovely, pleasant conversation. But this is finally the time where we sit down and have a nice hour-long chat. And I felt like I finally truly got the chance to know you, all you stand for, and the value you add to Brownsville, Texas. From Brownsville, you went away, learned a little bit, came back, and you're reinvesting all your lessons back to your own community. Maria Fernanda Martinez, thank you for being with us today on Brownsville Matters.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
This is Michael Quantz with the Brownsville Society for the Performing Arts, here to tell you about our podcast, Brownsville Matters. Everyone in Brownsville has a story to tell, and these are the stories. We broadcast these stories every Friday at 5 p.m. and every Sunday at 3 p.m. on KXIQ 105.1 FM on your radio dial. You can also catch these stories rebroadcast on our YouTube channel for Brownsville Society for the Performing Arts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and smash the notifications if you want more information about these stories that you watch and listen to.